Hi everyone, and thank you for purchasing the blog post Shopify section by qwiqode. In this video, I'll be showing you how to actually use it. So if you haven't installed it yet, please refer to the separate video included in the package, and you also have access to a PDF with instructions. So, to get started, head over to your theme editor, navigate to the page you want to add the section to, and over on the left, click on Add Section and search for the new section, QQ Blog Posts. There you go. So over on the right, we have a long list of sections. We'll go by settings. We'll go through all of them. So to get started, select your blog, and it populates with the images from each blog, like so. Next, you have section title. You can have a custom section title, which you would edit here, or you can just automatically get the blog title imported. Next, we have section title HTML element. So this is good there are two benefits for choosing one of the HTML elements. So there are 6 different headings, H1 to H6, and the first benefit is for search engines. When they scan your page, they look for important content, and they read all of the content, but they look at the headings, and you can rank the headings by importance on the page. So for instance, if you take this and you set it as H1, then the H1 would be considered a page title by search engines. Usually you're recommended to just put in 1, and so at the very top of the page, your theme usually has an H1 already set. But if you want this to be, let's say, the top of the page, you have that option to choose H1 as the page title. Or you can select any other of the sections. Usually we recommend, if it's a section within a page and it's not the very top, then you would select H2, but you can select any other one. The other benefit is that your theme already has predefined styles for the different headings. So that way, if you select one, it will already import the font size, the weight, the font type maybe, letter spacing, and so on, color. And so you could do that and save time instead of going down. You can set all these things up on the in our settings below, but you could do that to save time as well. So we'll keep that at H2. We'll move on. We have section text block. So that would be the text block that goes underneath the title. So this is a short description, let's say, something like that. Oh, I've got a period in there. And here as well, you can select the HTML element, but here we also added a P, which stands for paragraph. But you can also set it to any of the other H1, H6 headings. Moving on, we have section button, which is the main button that is located down below. You can opt to not have it in there by just removing the label. So if we just remove the label right over there, it'll just disappear. You can put the title in there, and you can have it linked directly to the blog that you selected, or you can put in a custom URL. And if it is a custom URL, then you would set that link right over here. Just keep it at blog for now. Move on. You can also set it to open up in a new tab. We'll get to this in a moment, down below. Next, carousel settings. So we have an option to set how many slides to show. So right now we have 4 slides showing. Obviously you can change that to 3, to 5, maximum of 6, and the minimum of 2, just like that. Let's keep it at 4. You could set that default. You can scroll through the arrows one by one, or you can have it advance by a whole group. You can see this here. I don't have actually images for these for these blog posts, and that's why they're coming out here. So I recommend you have an image for each of the blog posts. Next, you can do autoplay carousel slides so that they will advance automatically, and you can set the speed between each one here. So this is 4 seconds. You can do it much quicker, every 2 seconds or 1 second, and so on. Show overflow of items. As you can see, there's you have a hint that there's more to come. So this is good. We call it an overflow. So you can turn that off, and you can just see straight just the amount visible. And infinite scroll. So you could turn this on or off, and it doesn't loop infinitely and repeat itself. It goes to the very end of the list, or you can go to the very beginning on the left side. Space between slides, so that's a space. It's pretty obvious. We could play around with the space and adjust the space between them. And we have the same setting for the mobile version. To remind you, you can check out the mobile version by just clicking right over there, and then we can make that a little bit less, just like so. Next, we have the arrows here. So there's a few different options for the arrows. You can use our default ones and then set the different colors. So you can choose the line to be red, the background to be whatever color you'd like, just like that. Or let's say a gray, like that. And then here you have distance from edge, so you can adjust where to place the arrow. So you can move it inwards if the setting, position of arrows, is inside the wrapper. But you can also choose outside of the wrapper and then make it much closer so that it'll appear right over there, for instance. And if you but if you want a different style arrow, then you can upload it right over here for the left arrow and for the right arrow. Next, we have options to set the grid settings. So you can set, when you click on this button, expand. So we have a grid view. So you can set how many columns to have in each one. So you can do 2. And as you can see, whenever you update, then it refreshes back to the carousel, but you have a default state here. We can change that if you want to set that up. You can do grid, and then you can adjust that and see the changes automatically. So we have an option between 2, 3, and 4 for the number of columns, and then you can adjust the gap between them horizontally and vertically, just like that. On mobile, we can also set the number of grid columns. So right now we have it set to 1, but we could set it to 2, just like that. And then also set the gap between them. Let's bring this back to carousel for now. All right, moving on. Section styling. So we have an option to have the section a regular width, so you can adjust with this max width the width you want the section to be. So you can align it up with any other sections that you have on the page. Or you can select full width. And so full width, it extends to the very edge, and you can basically see the difference is if you choose to have a background color. So if we choose a background color, you can see the background color extends all the way to the edges. And then still within that, you can adjust the width. Now, real full width basically ignores the max width and extends everything to the very edge. Now, you still see some padding here, and we'll get to that in just a second. So you can adjust that so that the images touch the edge of the browser. Next, we have here just another setting of section header position. So right now, the header is within the section. So you could choose to do it outside of the wrapper, but this only works if you're in regular width, just like that. Next, we have section margins and padding. So margin is the space above and below a section. So you can give more space between sections. As you can see here, I can reduce the space and it gets a little bit closer to it. And then you have section margin bottom as well. Right now it's kind of hard to see because there's nothing else below here, but it gives more space above and below. And then padding is the space within. So we have padding top. So if you want more space up here, then you can adjust that right over there, and then more padding below, let's say, just like that. Now, horizontal padding is what I mentioned just a second ago. So right now it's set to 20, but you can just move that over to 0, and now you see that the images touch. Now the arrows disappeared, so now we have to go back to the arrows, and then I would recommend doing inside of wrapper, and then there you go, and then you can adjust that to have it a little bit closer or wherever you'd like. We have the same styling settings, the margin and the padding for mobile version as well. Next, section header styling. So let's set this up. In case you want to change it, like I mentioned before, you have the predefined styling for the different heading types. But if you want to change it, you could definitely change that. Obviously, you have text alignment, and you can change the text alignment, like so, in center, right, left. The color. If you like to use a custom font, you can select custom font and then choose from the list that Shopify provides. Or if you have a manually installed font, then you would paste in the CSS that looks basically like this with the font name right in here. And it'll take that and it'll overwrite anything else. Next, you have font weight, so you can override the font weight. You have section margin top and bottom as well. So that's just if you want to give a little bit more space there, which is essentially the same as the padding in the case of the title, but you have that option there in any case. And then bottom margin is the space below. So if we have a section short description right below, we can just make it closer like that. Next, we have font size, line height, and letter spacing. So right now they're set to 0, which means it takes the default predefined style for that element, but you can adjust it however you'd like, make it bigger or smaller if you want a custom heading with a different look and feel. Keep that at 0 for now. Line height and letter spacing. Line height is only relevant when you have a very long title and it goes down to 2 lines, so you might want to adjust the height, the spacing between the lines. And then letter spacing, adjust that as well. And then we have the same settings here for mobile version. Next, text block styling is the same exact settings, but just for this. So we can choose the custom font, we can set the color, alignment, font type, and so on. And the same settings go for mobile devices as well. Next, we have section button styling. So section button alignment, we can set the alignment left or right or center. Now notice that it's touching here. Same thing that happened with the header that I didn't mention. Like if we have this also on the right side, for instance, or that too. We have a setting up here that I think we missed, which is the header and the button maximum width. So because they're touching, because we're using full width, then you can reduce that a little bit, and then it gives you that more space for the buttons and for this. This we can adjust a little bit later. So let's just undo what we did here. All right. And for the button, we can also adjust the custom font like we did before, the font weight, horizontal padding, which will give a little bit more space for a bigger button, just like that. Vertical, make it taller, just like that. Border width, if we want a border, we can obviously have one. You can remove the border, just like that. Border radius, set to round the corners. A second while it's loading, it's a little slow. There we go. And then margin top to give more space if we'd like, or less space a little bit, like that. And font size and letter spacing for the button as well. Same settings for mobile. For some of them actually, the margin, the ones that are relevant, margin top, font size, and letter spacing. Next we have button colors. So we have the text color, so let's choose to have it blue. And the background, we can make it, let's say, white, while the border, let's say, will also be white. So we have a button like that. Then we have the hover colors. So when we hover over, we can change the background to black, the text color to white, and then the border, let's do it also this dark color. So we can have a button just like that. Next, the carousel toggle styling, which is this toggle right over here. I'll remind you that switches between the two. So we can change the text. So you can make it smaller, expand, or minimize, like that. You could change the color of the button and change the hover color. So hover over, just like that. You can show the underline or not. Change its custom font. Then we have the alignment, so we have it right, center, and left as well. Now, as you can see, it's touching here as well. So with this, you can adjust the horizontal padding, and it'll give it more space. And of course, font size, line height, letter spacing, margin top. So you could see if you want it more closer to the heading, you can just reduce that. It goes into negative numbers here. You do that something like 0 or negative 50, because Shopify limits us to how much we can only do 100 units. So it's negative 50 to 50. Then you can do margin top if you want a little bit more space right over there. And then horizontal padding, we touched on that. And we have the same settings for the mobile version as well. We have article image dimensions. So we have right now, it's pulling in the original. And this could be used sometimes if there's different size images, then they're going to be jagged on the bottom. But you can make them uniform by choosing portrait, if you'd like, square. Second while it loads, there it goes. Or landscape, which are the originals in my case, but it would crop if you had different sized images. You can choose border radius. You can set that up just like that. So adjust the custom height to the image. So by clicking right over there. So you can see sometimes it doesn't work right. It really does depend on the images that you placed in the blog, but adjusting it like that, or if you set it to original, then it adjusts it best. Just like that. And we have the same option for mobile as well. Next, we have image opacity on hover. So you can turn that on, and when you hover over, you have a little bit of feedback that you're hovering over, and then it could link over to it. Next, article content styling. So it's the content right over here. You can set it to left align, right align, and center. Same thing for mobile. You can actually just hide the title if you don't want it. And you can set the HTML element as I described before, just like that. Set the title color, custom font, font weight, all these settings that we've adjusted. As you can see, we also have this minimum height option. Minimum height option is, you could see here there's 3 lines and here there's only 2. So sometimes it creates this jagged look, and a lot of times we want everything to be aligned nicely. So you can set the minimum height of this block of text. In that case, you just have to adjust it to get to the right height. A little bit more. There you go. So everything now should be aligned correctly, and you can obviously make it much more, just like that. In case it would go down to 4 lines in some cases, smaller screens, etc. Or if you have more items visible, for instance. Then we have a top margin, so you can adjust more space right over there, less space margin below it, font size, line height, letter spacing, and of course you could change the font weight as well. We have the same settings for the mobile version. Next, article button styling. So for this button, just like the settings we did for the mobile for the button below here, you can also just hide the button if you want a nice clean look, and then you could just click to go and view. And you could change the label of it, and the usual settings for custom font, font weight, padding, border width, radius, and so on for all the buttons and for mobile. And then we have the colors here as well. So that's it. There's a lot of settings. Thank you again. Hope that this section helps you achieve your website goals. And if you have any problems or issues, please don't hesitate to contact us via the support page on our website.